One. Boom, boom, boom. Welcome to the Glockchain. What up? What up?
What's up?
Shit, man. Chilling, man. Got another special guest here lined up today. I'm hell of excited.
I'm pumped about this. Yep.
Yeah, boy. Why don't you introduce our guest here, man?
I can't even remember how I came across his tweets, but he started basically breaking down his thoughts about different projects, and it every post was just on point. Like he just always made me take a step back every time I read his stuff and really like evaluate what I'm doing. So I would really wanted him to come on the show to show off how smart he is, not me just gassing him up.
You got the wrong guy.
All good.
All right, Audio Vox, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, Tim, you put me up on Audio Vox too, and I think as soon as I caught a couple of tweets, there was something that distinguished him from the other flow of super positive energy on my feed, and it wasn't that it was negative; it was just that it was it was a healthy amount of cynicism involved in it.
Like constructive,
Yeah, exactly.
Like not bearish or bullish for any reason. But I was curious, when did you get into crypto or NFTs and why?
Sure. So crypto, I started ballpark like 6-7 years ago. Just bought a couple little bags of things because I thought they were interesting, and was like, oh, this is kind of cool tech. I don't know if it's the future, but like maybe. And we saw a few pumps over the years and was like, well, I'm just gonna sit on it. Maybe it'll take me somewhere. Last year, around the time Top Shot came out, I got into that kind of early, and was like, oh, this is interesting tech too. Again, not sure that like in its current form it's the future, but like played with that a bit for a couple months, got out, missed kind of the era of what I call kingmakers, like where everyone was getting their Bored Apes and stuff, but kind of took a couple months off, came back, did a lot on ETH for a couple of months, and then got into Solana NFTs, and that's where I play most of the time now.
So what was it about Top Shot that got you thinking or looking at NFTs? Are you into basketball or something? Or
I mean, I've always been a basketball fan. I'll rep the Jazz forever, but
nice.
I mean, just
or why is that different? How is that different? From just
John Stockton, Karl Malone, baby. That's why it's different.
Exactly.
Right.
This guy knows.
Mark
Eaton? Yeah, I mean, I like this idea of like digital collectibles, and I found that really interesting. I like the idea of like digital property that's like verifiable and identifiable. I don't think you might find out I'm really pretty cynical about like NFTs and crypto in their current form, and so I don't want anyone to think that I'm like fudding their bags, because that is how I come across a lot of the time, honestly. But I think that it's important tech, and I think that it's useful tech. I just think that like the way that we are using it now is mostly silly, honestly.
What are some of the things in the current form that are silly?
So, long answer. So starting with crypto in general, I mean, there's some useful platforms, and I think that there's like a lot of adoption to be had, but I worry about crypto in its current format as far as like safety and privacy go. Everyone thinks of crypto as like anonymous or like this whole trustless, permissionless thing. There's something cool about that, but if you think about it on like a mass adoption level, there is a huge privacy issue, right? Like imagine that I don't know enough about Solana Pay to like really say, but I know Solana Pay's coming up, and like imagine that, you know, everywhere that you go, you can like tap your phone and pay with Solana Pay. Unless there's some like privacy layer that basically like tumbles your address every time or something,
Right.
and like kind of makes it a secret where your money is coming and going. Um, like just imagine that like you go to Target and it has like a certain wallet at this location, and like, you know, Solana gets faster. It's like 1 second finality or whatever for your transactions, and like,
Sure.
you know, you go to a coffee shop and like you know, I'm gonna give an example. Maybe you're a pretty girl and you go to a coffee shop, and the dude behind you knows like the wallet address of that coffee shop, and now he knows like pretty much everywhere else you went because he was the transaction after you. And he can know within 1 second like what you're doing all the time. So in its current format, like mass adoption is kind of scary. And then NFTs right now, like I'm playing in the space. There's tons of money to be made, and we're all early into all of this stuff. And so like with more adoption, like honestly, a lot of us are going to do really well. But it does depend on other people getting in. There is like a bit of Ponzi-nomics to the whole thing. And then with NFTs in particular, we're getting sold a lot of stuff that is deceiving.
Yeah. So is there like, do you have any ideas for solutions to that? Like, you know, that privacy layer? I mean, obviously you could have a burner phone for every single time you go to the coffee shop, but that doesn't make much sense.
That
Yeah,
sounds great
right.
for the environment, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah, I mean, if you like want to run out of wallet addresses, eventually that's
Right.
kind of how to do it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple like potential solutions out there. I know someone who's working on something like that, and so I don't want to like give away any trade secrets,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's like a couple potential solutions. But part of it is that the whole idea of like we need everything to be public ledger and trustless and permissionless, like that isn't always right. Like that's not always the end goal.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yep.
Yeah, I think that is interesting. I you know, I talk to Tim about that frequently. Like, what is the end goal? And I'm sure it's different for everybody. One thing that I always talk about is the decentralization of you know, that crypto talks about. And it's like, is that always the end goal, to have things totally decentralized? You know, it seems to me like things are going to become centralized when somebody puts out a superior product. Like if somebody comes up with a privacy layer, you know, to solve one of these solutions. Well, all the, you know, they're going to get a ton of business, and things are going to start to centralize around them. And so it's like, okay, well, I mean, is that a bad thing?
Yeah, no, not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Like some of these things kind of have to live with some kind of like I don't know, like person or group or something that watches over them, basically. And like that's just how they're going to have to work. Like decentralization is really cool for some things, and then for other things, like it's not viable. Like it's potentially dangerous.
Yeah, and that's a hard, like, you know, balance, because there's this issue of like doxing, and if you're gonna, you know, put some sort of rules around something, yeah, I don't know how far that can go, just being like programmed, you know.
Right.
I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but so yeah, what do you see as the silliness in the NFT space? I'm curious about that too.
Sure. There's a lot of stuff, man. So
Yeah.
the thing that I was talking about recently with a lot of people, and that honestly, the reason I posted that first article about like like NFTs with staking and tokens is that I felt like I was explaining that over and over again, and like I just wanted it to be one place so I could like link it to people and be like, here, this is what I'm talking about. So the trend right now, like huge trend in NFTs, is you buy your NFT and then you stake it, and we're going to give you this much of our token, and it's worth this much, and you're going to have passive income. And like, who doesn't want passive income?
That's
Like,
the main thing.
yeah, that's
Yep.
what we want, right? Like, we want to buy a few like assets or whatever, and we want them to sit there and pay us so that we don't have to like work, and we have time to do things that are important to us.
Yep.
So
Sounds good
like,
to me.
yeah, right. And so we're like getting sold this promise over and over again, and there's a couple situations where we think we see that it working, and I'm not going to name any specific projects. Again, not trying to FUD anyone's bags, but there's like a couple big projects that we see, and we're like, oh, these guys are getting paid like this much of their token, and it's worth this much, and so they're making this many dollars a day. And like, it seems like it's sustainable. It's been a couple months and they're still getting paid in this token, and the token price even went up a little bit. So like, these guys are getting real passive income. So let me buy this project that kind of looks like that, or that is modeled like that. And like, maybe I can get that too. Like, maybe I can hold this NFT and it's going to just pay me forever. And there's like a major issue with how all of them are set up, almost all of them. And like, it just the math doesn't work out. Like, we need to take time and like look into it and be like, where does the money come from?
Well, that's the thing, right? Is when the system of paying out the bottom people, but the top people comes at continually bringing in new people. It's like, that's where we have the Ponzi system coming into play here. So who's responsible for that though? Like, if you buy into these Ponzi schemes, right? It's like, who do we blame? Is it silly the people buying into it? Is it silly the people that are running it? Like,
so that's a really hard question. There's like a few ways to look at it. So I will tell you, I personally have a few like NFT projects that are built and sitting on the sidelines because I truly haven't like figured out a way that I feel like they give enough value that I would feel good about selling them. That said, like, I don't necessarily view it as predatory, but like, I will tell you that some of the people that I work with think of like, okay, well, if you're just gonna like, because I have, like I said, I have a couple projects, and I think one of them is like, looks really nice and is very marketable. But like, if I just sell it and like, it doesn't really give my buyers value, I don't feel good about it. And I can tell you, one of my team members is like, that's just predatory. Like, you are selling things to people who are getting into the space thinking that they're going to make a lot of money. And like, you know, if you're doing that, then like, you, in a way, you're a predator. And there, you can extend that to the moon and be like, well, like, you know, if I'm buying stocks to sell them to someone like more expensive later, am I being predatory? Like, I'm expecting it to go up in price. So like, I don't see it as predatory necessarily. I do think that people who are getting into the space like need to think a little bit harder about what they're doing and like look at things more. But I will say that like, a lot of the projects, you see projects rugging all the time, like hard rugs, but we also need to think about like these other projects that have these like staking tokenomics, and the price of their token goes down over a couple months and like nobody sees it coming. And like, since I've started talking about this stuff more, a bunch of people have come to me about like, can you look at my tokenomics? Can you tell me if it makes sense? And none of them even know. Like, most of the people who are like building these projects, and they're like, we have like this many total tokens, this much is going to be for this much is going to be for staking, this much is going to be for a liquidity pool. Like, they're just making up numbers. Like, almost none of them have actually done like proper math modeling to say, this is how our token should be distributed over time, and like, this is how our token is going to maintain its value, because we're going to introduce this and this into it, we're going to have this revenue backing the liquidity pool. Like, none of them think about that. And not, like, honestly, so many of them have come to me and been like, can you look over my tokenomics? And I'm like, well, where does the money come from? Like, how do you think that it's going to retain its value?
Right.
And almost none of them can answer that, but none of them have even thought about it. It just seems like everyone's doing this, and like, this is how you create passive income for people. But a lot of them are not trying to be predatory. A lot of them are trying to give their holders value, but they just don't understand that it doesn't work.
yeah, to me, one of the probably the thing that people aren't maybe looking at is like, if I buy your NFT, I stake it, and I get your token, and then all I can do with that token is buy another one of your NFTs, right?
Right.
But the initial value of the NFT was partially based on the scarcity. Well, then me getting a token for you to create a new NFT, or it's really just playing against myself.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
kind of diluting it each time, each iteration.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts on like staking crypto to secure the network? And is there anything that these projects could take from, from these cryptos that are doing that? I mean, yeah. What are your thoughts around that?
That's an interesting thought. So yeah, that's really challenging. So not to get into like the meat of like how different crypto networks work, but like yeah, proof of stake networks basically just function better. Like they have cleaner function the more of their like token is, or their coin I should say, is staked, right?
Yep.
So the reason that works for them is they have a product. So like you stake the token, and so it's not getting oversold, which is like a nice way for the token to not inflate heavily. They basically introduce their own inflation by like giving you interest on the token.
Right.
But they have a product, which is their network. And so like their coin retains value because people use the network, and like you use that token as gas for the network. You use it for a variety of things on the network, right?
Yep.
So like intrinsically, the coins that like are the foundation of a network, they have a product that backs them. Like they have influx of capital, as long as the network doesn't suck and people want to use it, right? For these NFT projects, the issue is like, even if they introduced a staking system for their token, if there's not revenue coming in, if there's not some like use to the token, then the token is, you're basically just like slowing the bleed in a way. Like you're making it so that people don't sell their token, they're staking it so they can like get interest on it. And like eventually they want to sell it, right? And if there's not anything backing the token, then it is going to go to zero. I don't know how much like DeFi experience you guys have, but like in DeFi, people go from like yield farm to yield farm over and over, because early on the yield farm, like the token is worth something like when you sell it, and then after, for a lot of these farms, like a few days, the token is so inflated that like you can't get pennies for it.
Right.
And the same, like if they, all these yield farms have staking for their coin, and like the higher interest rates they show for staking their coin, or their token I should say, like the more people stake it, and they think that they're like making more money, but they're just slowing the bleed basically. Like the token's still going to zero, it's
Yep.
not making money.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, staking, if I'm a company, I want people to stake their NFTs. Like, how does the company benefit most from that, in your opinion?
There's a couple things. Like intrinsically, it doesn't have any value. Like staking by itself, like doesn't do anything. The only like real value to it is if staking and unstaking maybe have like a time lock on them. If you're a company that's selling an NFT, and suppose you do have revenue coming in, and so like whatever token you're giving people like will have value basically. So like I think we think of like shadowy supercoder as kind of the gold standard of this. Like Genesis Go is a big company, they have a bunch of revenue streams, and some portion of that revenue goes into their token, like buying it back and burning it, like backing their liquidity pool. And so they're kind of a good example of this. And so you stake your NFT, you get paid out in this token, and then basically while your NFT is staked, like you're not selling it, you're making the product more exclusive, you're raising the price of the product, like you're making it look better. So like you've seen the current NFT like whitelist meta, Like if you're holding expensive stuff, people are going to give you whitelist spots. And so like, having that exclusivity or having that like, oh, my thing is expensive. Like there's as like stupid as it is, that there's always prestige to that, right?
Yep. There's
That
cache.
seems to be one of the biggest currencies in
Yeah.
that's right. The clout currency.
Yeah. So is there ever a time when you invest in silly shit and why?
Yeah. So invest.
Well, invest.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, all the time. And like I said, there's
Nice.
there's just like a lot of money coming into the space, and so there's a lot of money to be made. And kind of those of us that are earlier into the space and have a little more experience, like we can kind of see some of the patterns. And so you see like a hype project that maybe doesn't do anything. Like I buy some of these like Ponzi token projects and I will flip them for a quick buck. Like
Yep.
and do I feel some shame? Maybe a tiny bit, but like that's just kind of the game right now. But do I like invest in those? Like will I hold those long term? Absolutely not.
Right.
Like they are almost all worthless. Like the thought that I'm going to like hit the next like Bored Ape or like the next Dragons or whatever, like just statistically I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And so if I'm like holding everything hoping for that, like I'm most likely going to lose. And if I'm just taking profits where I can, then like there's a lot of profits to be had. And then you find occasionally a project that you're like, oh, this might be something and this could like actually develop into something big. I'll sit on it.
Do you care at all for things that you are willing to sit on? Like if they have revenue already, or if they're, if they're an established company, or like if you even know who the devs are or anything, like does that come into play when you're, like I'm gonna hold this, for a while?
Yeah. That it's kind of a multi-piece answer, but like in a basic way, you kind of put all those things together, right? Like the more experience you get in any field, like you kind of get better at aggregating data without thinking about it necessarily. But like trying to break it down, I would say like knowing who the devs are is not necessarily the most important thing. I would say having a working product is extremely attractive to me. If I can tell that someone is like a competent developer and that they have done like really good planning, that's very attractive. And like I can give you examples if you like, but basically like those are important. Having someone doxed, like even if someone's doxed, how many cases have you seen like actually get, like people get arrested or go to court or whatever? Like there's tons of doxed developers that like screw people all day long. That has like not a ton of value to me. But like, does it give you
just look at Congress? They're all doxed.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple of projects. So like Stoned Apes, when I was first getting into it, they were like, oh, we built our Discord bot. So as soon as you mint, you can like verify your NFT. Like they built it themselves. I'm like, okay, there's someone on their team who has like a little bit of tech savvy. They, before they minted, had like, this is like basically our tokenomics, and it was like much more thorough than anything else. And I talked with a couple of them and was like, how are you guys figuring this out? And they were actually doing like proper math modeling to be like, this is like how we expect to go. And then based on like, how long it takes for certain things or how much people are buying into certain things, then we adjust the prices. They have like their Nuked Apes collection coming out. That's like a burn mechanism for them. And like it's an upward scaling cost. So like the early ones cost a certain amount. And then after that, it's like a percentage cost that goes up, and they can like adjust that based on their model to like keep their token stable. On top of that, they like have external utility to their token. Like you can buy stuff with it at a discount. So it's like worth more than your money. You could like buy the token and get something that you want at a discount. And then they also have like a couple revenue streams that they're building. So like it's a project that makes sense to me in a lot of ways. And so that's like something that I hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty easy way to put some utility onto, these collectibles, is to like, make some t-shirts, make some coffee mugs, make some hats, make some pins that you can turn these tokens into, acquiring something other than just the NFT. That seems like kind of the no-brainer that I could just be dumb, but I don't see that many different projects doing that.
Yeah, and definitely not doing it well. I mean, you
Yeah.
see like, oh, we're gonna have merch or whatever, but
Where's
So I'm
it at?
happy with the roadmap, but I hardly ever see it.
Yeah, and with all the creativity, and it just seems like it's just it's like the NFT. It's kind of like seems like, oh well, it's almost like a comic book thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be, or make a little plastic figurine of the character. That's a super easy way to translate that into real life and put some value into those tokens.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
So I just was reading, okay, I wanted to ask, do you have like a strategy? Well, so first of all, are you after passive income, like whatever that means, I guess, but,
Sure.
and like, what is your broad strategy for like building that up, if you do have that?
Yeah, so definitely very into passive income, or like income that is like asymmetric for the amount of work that goes into it.
Right.
So I can tell you I've been like mining crypto for some time.
Okay.
There's some like maintenance. There's like a little bit of learning the tech involved in that, but it's fairly passive. And like scaling that up takes a little more effort, but like compared to working a day job, like it's a lot less work.
Nice.
So for me, that's like one approach. Certainly like investing in stocks. There's stocks that are going to do well over time. There's companies that are probably just not going to die and are going to continue to outperform. And so I think of that as like a way to grow my money. And then in like NFTs, I do look for projects that I think like, okay, this is basically me buying into a company that I believe in. Like this is a company that I think could generate a lot of revenue. And if I'm getting revenue share on that company for like, a Solana or 2 Solana or something, and like potentially it scales huge, I mean, that's like what you want to hit, right?
Yeah, of course.
So there's definitely a lot of opportunities in NFTs right now that are extremely asymmetric. Like you're putting in a very small amount of money for potentially an enormous return, not just like flipping the NFT, but like some of these guys have really good ideas. And if you can get some evidence that they're able to execute, like they're actually able to like do that stuff, then those are the ones that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy into this, and I'm going to like sit on it and gamble, and like maybe take a loss on it. Like there's a couple projects right now that I'm just like, well, I'm kind of ride or die on this. Like I'm way up if I were gonna sell it, but like there's a potential for a massively asymmetric return on it over time, and so I'm just gonna sit on it.
Yeah.
Is the Quantum Traders one of those NFTs? I think I heard you mention.
Quantum Traders is a good example of a token that is backed, or at least will be backed by some revenue. So it's not like a pure Ponzi token. I'm waiting for them to build tools that I think will have wide adoption and like really generate revenue. I know they're supposed to announce something big, and they say revolutionary in the next couple of days. So like Quantum Traders has like 2-year vesting on its tokens, basically. So like that's like 2 years of passive income, so to speak, but like it's not perpetual. I'm really looking for something that I'm like, oh, this is something that could just sit there for a really long time and become a brand, or like I don't know if you guys are familiar with DGen Coin Flip. I like lucked into that one day.
Nice.
Yeah, so that one I like found after the same day they minted, but after they minted, just by luck on Twitter, and was like, oh, this is an interesting idea. Like, I've seen a couple similar things, but no one's actually executed on it. But let me just like take a look. And then I went to their Discord and I saw that it was already like a totally functional product and people were using it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just get in on this and like see. And, you know, the developers are completely anonymous. And for their project, that makes sense. But they have built like something really nice, and they are clearly very competent. And so that's one that I'm kind of ride or die on. I'm just like, well, I got in on day one, and my like however many X like on my investment that I've made by selling is there. But you know, if DGen Coin Flip is like Solana household name, so to speak, like people just go mess around on there every once in a while, then it's just got huge potential. And so I'm looking for things like that.
That you can almost like set and forget and just collect,
Yeah.
like a dividend, or almost.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as they're around, then
Right.
you're good. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess time will tell, because Solana NFTs have only been around less than a year, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah. So do you have, or actually, this is some. Do you see any other network, any other cryptos, NFTs that are interesting like this? I'm like too deep into the Solana world to even know what's going on outside of it.
Sure.
For the most part. So like, is that even feasible on Ethereum or other networks to do these sorts of things?
Not on Ethereum currently, just because like if you're going to distribute earnings, it would be impossible with gas. Yep. Unless you had like just enormous revenue. Yeah. Where it's like worth it to spend a few bucks on gas every day or every week or however you want to do it. There are a number of networks that are like pretty cheap, like Solana. We'll see how like those networks. Yeah, we'll see how those networks scale. I've played around on AVAX. So it's a little pricier than advertised when the network is congested, and the network definitely does get congested if there's something big going on. But like, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of networks that I've played on. Like I have messed around on like Harmony and Near and Luna at this point, and they're all fine networks, but like they don't do anywhere near the amount of transaction volume that Solana does. Like Solana does more transactions. Like even if you take out the voting transactions, it does more transactions like per day or per year than like the next like top 20 smart contract platforms put together or something like that. So well, we have to see how those other ones scale. There's definitely similar projects on other networks. I've seen like a couple copies of like DGen Coin Flip on other networks, for example, and I'm sure that they have a promising future if they can market well. But like, yeah.
Cool. Okay, since you've been around for quite a while here, Mr. Audiobox, how long do you think until we get the next acronym that's used to make people feel bad for thinking about taking their money out of the ecosystem? How often do these come up and show their face, man? Because I see quite a few of them, and I know it's like a positive kind of affirmation to like tell everybody good morning. And I'm with it, you know what I'm saying? But like, how often do you see these things come up, and or do you see any negative side about having things like "we are going to make it" or just FUD? Just kind of being thrown around out there.
That's really funny that you asked that. I literally have an article written right now. I was going to post it later about that exact thing. So, I'm kind of the FUD factory that they, and in one of my communities, there's like one other guy that agrees with me on some stuff, and they're like, oh, like the FUD team is here, like whenever I walk in.
Nice.
So, but
Throw up those
yeah,
F's.
exactly. So, yeah, so I wrote something about this like in the last couple days, and my take on it is I think it's important for us to have our own language in a space. Like, as a community, we develop our own language. That's just like normal for any community. You streamline your communication. Like, there's certain connotations that go with certain phrases or words or whatever that communicate a lot more than just like the one word does. The issue that I'm seeing in NFTs right now is it's some of that language is getting a little bit cult-like, basically. And what I mean by that is when you are, in a cult, basically, you may not recognize it, but like a lot of the ways that cults kind of exert their power on their members is through language. And part of that is like you charge some of the language like in a positive or negative way, and then you can kind of give people labels that are positive or negative without necessarily just straight insulting them. And then the second way is what are called like thought terminating phrases or thought terminating rhetoric, or like thought terminating cliches, or kind of the things that I hear. That is the idea that like not to use like religion as like a real example of this, although in some ways it is. But like, something happens and you say like the whatever higher power, like it's up to them. Like the Lord works in mysterious ways, for example. Like that's a way to like not think about something that happened and just be like, that's just what it is.
God's got this.
Yeah.
You can't say anything to that, or you can't go any further with that.
Exactly. Like that's just the end of it. Like it's above our understanding. Like, don't even think about it. And so right now we have a couple things, like a couple pieces of language, like you mentioned. So like we're all gonna make it the WAGMI, right? Like there's a broad argument. Like, if you are holding good assets right now, you're early enough in crypto, and there's more money that's going to come into space. Like, you probably are like going to do well. But as far as like you buy some shitty NFT that like is selling you a Ponzi token, like we're not all going to make it, right? Like, we literally can't. Like, someone has to lose for me to make money. Someone has to like buy my flip. Like, someone has to like buy the token and like pump the token up so that I can like dump it on them, right? Otherwise, like I'm not making it. So like literally in these little like mini Ponzi's, it's impossible for all of us to make it. But like, when you're living in the hype on Discord and you like bought this thing and everyone's like the floor price is pumping, like we're all gonna make it, like, no, someone has to lose. And so like we take that, and then we take the other side of it, like are not gonna make it, and like I'm gonna take profits. I like the shitty thing I bought that I know is shitty. Yeah, it like 3x. I'm gonna take my 3x. Like who in like normal finance makes a 3x in a day?
Right.
No.
Why are you putting my bags, dude?
Exactly. Not gonna make it. Like you sold earlier, you're gonna miss the moon, bro.
Yep.
Oh, the moon.
Down. So
that's funny.
we're all in this together.
We're all in this together, and like just hold my. Yeah, dude, just Diamond Hands it. Like, Diamond Hands is actually where I started with this whole idea. Like, Diamond Hands is like the shittiest piece of rhetoric that has come around like in the last, I don't know, like a couple of years. And I feel like it got really, really prominent with GameStop, but like it transitioned really hard into crypto and NFTs. And like the whole like just Diamond Hands, bro, just Diamond Hands, and you're like, we're gonna go to the moon, but like subversively, it's like just Diamond Hands, like hold my bag, and like it's kind of like staking, like it takes things off the market, right? Like if everyone just Diamond Hands, like then I can sell for a higher price.
Right. Well, and it kind of gets away from the whole point, which is like it's got to do something. Like why am I holding on to this worthless thing if it doesn't do anything? Like we're fooling ourselves if we are all thinking that we're just going to hold on to this worthless thing and somehow the price will sustain and go higher. Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it makes no sense. Like, there's only so much money in the world, right? Like, we can print more and pretend like there's more, but like there's only so much like value that we can trade. Right, and so like to think that we're gonna make like 1 million NFT projects and all of those are all going to go up all the time, like it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Well,
interestingly enough, the Christians don't adopt the "we're all going to make it" mentality, but that would be that would be a funny turn of events if they did.
That would be really funny.
We're all going to make it. Oh, all right, let's fucking go.
I can
Good
do
shit,
what,
man? I appreciate the insight there, man, and I appreciate that because it does sound like you put a good amount of thought into that too, man. And I think that there's a lot of young people in the culture, and I think it would be valuable for them to hear some thoughts that like you just presented, man.
Well, so yeah, something that I kind of switched when I got deeper into crypto was, so my brother invests in stocks that he likes, like in companies that he likes, and that he uses their products, and that's his strategy. He's like, I love Apple products, so I'm going to buy Apple. Like I like Teslas, and I want a Tesla. I'm going to buy Tesla or whatever it is. And in his strategy with stocks and real estate, which is what I've kind of been doing, is buy and hold. You just buy and hold. It goes up over time. It's the Warren Buffett way. But I've had to like reevaluate that take on crypto. And I was just wondering if you have any thoughts about that strategy applied to crypto, because
Sure.
I haven't been doing it long enough, like the non-buy and hold strategy, to know if this is a terrible idea or, it just is a weird change in my mentality for investing.
Yeah, it's just a different strategy, I think. So sounds like did you say your brother or your brother-in-law?
Yeah, my brother. Yeah.
Your brother. Yeah, it sounds like he just happens to like really good stocks. I mean, like those are companies that, it's cool that he happens to like those products, but they're like disruptive in the space. They've got enormous market caps. Like they year over year have like growth and like significant growth in their earnings. Like those guys are not going anywhere.
Yes.
And so it's like really easy to like pick those stocks basically that are like disruptive in the space and are always innovating, and like you can just expect them to go up because they are doing something. And like they have a significant amount of like support from regulators too, right? Like if something horrible happens to Tesla and Tesla looks like it's gonna like burn, like you better believe that people are gonna come like back it up, right? Like the government is not gonna let Tesla go down. Just like the airlines didn't go down when they were all like in the like deep in the red the last couple of years. Like they're gonna get support. Crypto right now is just not like that. So if something bad happens to a project, there's a good chance that it will die. There's like some crypto right now, and you're gonna hear my cynical side, but like Bitcoin, probably very safe, because there's so much more adoption of it than anything else. There's like a lot of like institutional adoption now. Banks are buying it, like Wall Street's in it. Like I know that there's like a lot of stuff going on as far as like, oh, how's it going to be regulated in the next couple months? Biden's task force, blah, blah, blah. But like, that's just a matter of like, who's going to make money off of it more than like, as far as I'm concerned, I doubt that it's going to be like, oh, we're just going to ban Bitcoin now. Cause like, that's going to screw a bunch of like banks and huge American companies like MicroStrategy and Grayscale have enormous bags. And if you like tank a couple of huge companies like that, that is not healthy for the economy. So like, it's not going anywhere. Even though at this point Bitcoin is just shit tech. Like it is not. Yeah, where if you want to like pretend that it's a store of value and we all agree on that, then I think that's like a beautiful thing. It's like very pristinely built for that. But like as far as like is it like the future or like is it permanent? It's probably the most permanent one right now.
Right.
I can see Bitcoin surviving for sure for like 5 years. 10 years I'm like a little shaky, and then like more than that, like I really don't know. Where it's only existed for 12, 13 years, like who knows like how long it's going to live before something that is way, way better, we're like, actually we should just switch to this. Like Ether, by the same token, it's just got like a big first mover advantage. They're really slow to move, but like it's pretty safe. It's not going anywhere. There's tons of apps built on it. Tons of people use it. There's a shit ton of like TVL and their DeFi. Like it's just not going anywhere. Solana is like my Ether hedge, basically. Like if Ether keeps being super slow, like Solana is going to take a big part of their market cap. Solana is like hyper functional, right? We talked about It's got more transactions than the next 20 networks combined. So like if someone is going to take a lot of ETH's market cap, I think it's Solana. And then for me, my hedges to that are like Phantom, Luna. I secretly think Harmony is actually like a really smooth network. And like all of those things I have some bags in, but also I know that like I might have to get out of them because like they're all really young and who knows if they're gonna last. And if something bad happens to one of them, there's no one's gonna bail them out, basically.
Right. Which it's kind of a beautiful thing,
That's the new acronym we need to come up with. NGSU. No one's gonna save us.
Beautiful.
Everyone's gonna save us? No, GGSU, government gonna save us?
Probably not.
Hey, well, shit, Audio Vox, man, you've come through and blessed us, man, with your presence here, man, and just, I think, really being a grounding energy, man. It is very refreshing to hear, man, and you do so with such a positive attitude too, man. So it's like you're not just coming on here like a lot of these mainstream talking heads just shitting on the technology. You've done the research, man, and you obviously have a passion and a care for it. And I think that to me,
even
man,
though we're flooding our bags, it's still, we do appreciate it.
No, I think it's this type of energy really that's going to weed out the bad from the good and make the best rise to the top.
For sure. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. So hey, check out Audio Vox, man. He's on what is that, at Audio Vox on Twitter?
Yep. Audio Vox VG.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're trying to hype the Medium, but that's where all the articles are at too, from his Twitter. Yeah, man.
Yeah. That one's
check
Audio Vox
man.
as well. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll put all the links on here, man, and we'll just keep it pushing, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
Peace, man.
All right, Audio, take it easy. Peace.